everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here often with Kevin Noon. Kevin, how's it going?
It's going. We are, I don't know, don't want to trademark infringe how many days out we are from the Texas game. It's less than 100, but being in the 12 o'clock hour, not to scoop ourselves, we're almost down to the hour.
Down to the hour.
We have learned some scheduling news.
Yes, it is officially official. Texas and Ohio State will be a 12 p.m. kickoff on Fox. Ohio State has announced it. Networks are finally announcing the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. And so that was one of the announcements. The Michigan game, of course, is going to be a noon kick on Fox. The Grambling State game is a 3:30 kick on the Big Ten Network. And your Fighting Ohio Bobcats, that will be a 7 p.m. kick on everybody's favorite, Peacock. So remember to keep looking for your Peacock codes to get your free 3 months worth of the Peacock for like $5 or whatever if you've canceled it after the season. So there you go. There was hope, Kevin, that we could get this to a 3:30 kick for Michigan or for Texas, but Fox always wins.
Hope is such a subjective word. I mean, again, this has nothing to do with me and my preferences. I'm being cantankerous, mostly because I'm old, but I'm also being cantankerous because this whole, well, at least maybe we can move them from 12 to 3:30 campaign was a whole lot of wasted hot air, in my opinion. They'd already made up their minds. I'm not going to say that they had already created internal promotions for it being at 12. And the only reason they hadn't is because it's May. You're not generally building spots at this point for August. But it was always going to be noon. It is, depending on your thoughts on each team, is it going to be 1 versus 2, 1 versus 3, 2 versus 3? I'll tell you what it is. It's going to be a top 5 matchup regardless. And Fox was not going to pass on this one. And I'm going to tell you something unpopular. And remember, this is a Buckeye Weekly podcast, not a Big Me kickoff. Mm-hmm. So get mad at Tony that he can't control his guest. So his guest is getting ready to pop off. Network don't care that you don't have time to drink in the morning. Drink sooner. You're going to watch the game. You're going to go to the game. If you can get tickets, it is what it is. If you want to sit there and you want to make the big bucks, sometimes you got to dance. Well, you're dancing now.
Yeah, it's the 7th consecutive regular season game that kicks off at 12 p.m. for the Buckeyes. And that's an issue. Now, it's an issue that, that's what the money's for. That's 6 of those 7 games have been on Fox. One was Big Ten Network game. The Northwestern game at Wrigley last year was a Big Ten Network game. But other than that, Fox has been leaning on Ohio State because they can't lean on the West Coast teams. And Michigan was not very good last year. And so Ohio State is bearing the brunt. Now, we'll see. And we're going to go later in the show. We're going to try to predict the rest of the Ohio State kickoff times for the season based on there are so many factors that go into that, not just what's the best game or, it's also who do you think has the first pick this week or that week? And that's another issue. And so some of the other times have been coming out for the rest of college football. And I was hoping to have like a sizable list so that we would have like a better idea of if Fox gets the first 3 picks, right, which is the assumption, then I think what would be the 4th game that is picked? Because I assume Penn State, Ohio State is the 3rd game. And so then is it Oregon, Penn State that is the 4th game? And then if that comes out as an NBC or a CBS game, then we know who had the 4th pick, and then we would know who had the 5th pick, presumably. So, as we're all dealing with this breaking news, I can go ahead and Kevin, I'll let you go rant for a little bit again, and then I'll try to find out.
Back in my day, music was music.
This the new wave.
Us.
But I'll see if the Penn State game has been picked up for the Oregon game or whatever. See if they have a kickoff time there yet. I don't know.
I had not seen. We saw CBS's drop. CBS's drop was the first 4 weeks of the season. I'd not seen NBC's drop in any way, shape, or form, but I was rapidly scrambling trying to get some things put together so we could get on the air with this show. If you know that there's big news, we're going to be talking about it here at BuckeyeHuddle.com, YouTube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Great time. Let's go through the laundry list right now as I'm filibustering for Tony to get some things done.
Yeah.
Hey, you're already watching us here on YouTube.com, so why not subscribe? Hit the thumbs up, hit the bell, subscribe to the channel. We're making a push for 30K. We want to get to 30K by the start of the Ohio State football season, the very end of August. That don't cost nothing, so may as well get on board. But if you hit the thumbs up, you hit the bell, all that too helps us with our distribution. You can find all of our shows here at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Additionally, in like a easy way that you can support us, that's a little bit of a monetary backing. You can become a subscriber to our YouTube channel, like a paid subscriber. It's 99 cents a month. I mean, hell, we talk about not having to pay for a crummy pizza to join BuckeyeHuddle.com. Why not do this here on the YouTube channel? Additionally, if you're a member, or just as kind of trying some things out, that certainly helps us be able to go out and do some of the neat events that we do over and above just covering the team. Then, of course, the granddaddy of them all, not the Rose Bowl, signing up for BuckeyeHuddle.com. Tom, Tony, and myself covering the team. Mark and Berm covering recruiting. Ross Fulton, his team of experts, handling all the X's and O's. The Huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby Steakhouse Columbus. All of that right there, $13.99 a month. You're going to want to be on board come football season. You may as well get on board now. Camps are starting here soon. Obviously, we're talking about all of this this television news. We do hold some of our best stuff back for our members because, of course, members make the world go round. So check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Is that
very good
for you?
Yep, got it. So the Oregon Penn State game will kick off at 7:30 on NBC. That is September 27th. So that's the first real mystery as we try to deduce where Ohio State will be in the fold. And that was one of the games that I thought could possibly be a night game for Ohio State at Washington. And so to me now, as we can just go ahead and start trying to figure this out, that leaves Ohio State at Washington for a CBS kick at 3:30.
That's what I have.
Yeah.
That's what I have. I can take a screenshot and show my notes to make sure I'm just like, oh, yeah, Tony, you're right. You're right.
Just make sure it's the right screen, whatever you do. Don't.
I'm not Jeffrey Tubin. Just go on. Sports.
And I guess that week is maybe like USC at Illinois for Big Noon. Because there aren't going to be a lot of Big 12 games that factor in. Like Colorado at like West Virginia one of these weeks may or something like that, but there's not a lot of Big 12 that would trump that. And USC at Illinois at that point could be a pretty big matchup. The October, so we're in agreement. And I think the 3:30 CBS feels like that's a pretty set thing. I think.
Well, I mean, especially if you have a game in the Pacific time zone, and then you have a game in the Central or Eastern time zone, you're going to want to make sure that, 99 out of 100 times that West Coast game is getting a more realistic time slot. Now, have we seen the 9 a.m. local game? Yeah, we have. Is it the last time that we're going to see that? Probably not. But let's not make a habit of it. So when that happens, you need to have some sort of thing in place to where Fox has got the 11 or 12 kickoff local time, and then you can sit there and that 3:30 Eastern game at Washington becomes a 12:30 local kickoff. And again, I've said time and time again, one of the smallest components of the whole equation is how many butts and seats you're going to be able to fill. That's not huge dollars compared to the enormity of the deal, but when you can make that work out, I think that's important. So I feel pretty strongly about that Washington game being a CBS special at 3:30 Eastern.
So then we have a pretty good idea that CBS has the fifth pick, and we can take this question from John here. What's more likely, the Penn State game being a 7:30 kickoff for Dan Lanning jumping into a pool again with a recruit? Yeah, the pool. I think the pool is, although you get burned once, although if you get burned jumping into a pool, it's probably not a pool you want to be in. But I think Dan Lanning or anybody like Dan Lanning is going to do pretty much whatever they can to land a commit. And I also don't think the Penn State game being a 7:30 kick is likely at all. So because at this point that would mean that Penn State at Ohio State would have been like the 5th pick or 6th pick, I guess. And so that's not the case. So I'm thinking that's going to be a noon kickoff. And I think we can go ahead and just pencil that one in. Penn State at Ohio State at noon kickoff.
Yeah, I'm going to mark that one off my list. I agree as well. You're looking at the theory behind it. I'm looking at the execution. We're 11-1. We're what, in the closing moments of the NLCS on Fox and in the opening moments of the World Series? Not going to have a day game probably at that point. They're not going to put a postseason baseball game in the day competing against everything in the world. Now, that doesn't mean that other networks won't compete against the World Series coverage. You can't just abandon the night game slot and say, well, there you go, Fox, we'll just give that to you. But if Fox has the choice, Fox is going to want to have it on the same, they're going to want to have it on the same channel that they have the World Series. You're probably not going to want to put in the 3:30 slot because that's the slot that you might dump out of quickly. I mean, you might join late because of the time of the previous game, and you may not have any post-game hoopla because you're trying to get it out to the baseball game venue. So, they're going to be. I think we're going to have a lot of Texas talk there. Of, well, they can at least just put it at 3:30. Be civil to us. Let us, let the recruits come in. Oh, Balderdash, you don't care about the recruits coming in. You don't. Stop lying to me. But I mean, the reality is that I think that 12 o'clock slot is going to be the one that's right. And I have a November night game on my schedule. Is it a marquee game like Penn State? Not exactly, but at least there is a recruiting backdrop. I thought about that as I was doing everything. Maybe a little hemming and hawing to appease the people making a valid argument, but just not making it the correct way.
Are you saying UCLA?
I am. I have that
night?
Based on everything that is on that day and everything else, and in order to try and maybe appease the LA market, not that anybody in the LA market is watching UCLA, to be honest, I made that one a night game. I just think that it fits in there. And I don't know if you went through this in setting up your mock schedule or not. I tried really hard to make sure that I hit the standards of 2 BTN games, 1 conference, 1 out of conference. I didn't have to touch streaming again because, as mentioned earlier, the Ohio University game is on streaming, so that's there. And I have one other thing on there that nobody's really talking about. I have Ohio State on FS1 at one point as well, but we haven't gotten to that one yet. But I think a lot of people are like, Ohio State's going to have like 9 big noon games. No, just they're not. But there's a lot. There's a decent amount of them.
So do you have that as an NBC 7:30?
I do.
7 or 7:30.
I did not see a Notre Dame conflict when I was building this out at 2:30 in the morning. Yeah. I guess today.
The only two Notre Dame conflicts is USC at Notre Dame on October 18th, and really that's so that's a 7:30 kick. So there were 2 games last year. Notre Dame had 7:30 kicks on NBC. And so what they did last year was they had one of those weeks, it was a 12 p.m. kick for the Big Ten on NBC, and another of the weeks is a 12 p.m. kick for the Big Ten on Peacock. So if that's the case this year as well, then think about that. But USC at Notre Dame on October 18th is a 7:30 kick for on NBC, and then Navy at Notre Dame on October 8th is also a 7:30 kick. So there may be no night window there, at least on NBC, for that. If we now know like the 4 top weeks that were picked because of the 4 top games, what is the 5th game that is picked? And you look at USC at Oregon, perhaps. I don't know that that may be too regional. Michigan at USC, I think, is a decent chance. Ohio State at Wisconsin is a decent chance. I'm not factoring in Indiana at this point.
No.
I'm not factoring in Penn State at Iowa. What do you think is that fifth biggest game?
I know. I'm going to throw this out. I think you're going with games. I'm kind of looking at weeks and things like that. I went through. We all have different methodologies to try and get to the same, to answer the same question, to get the same result. And I think the week of November 22nd is a very interesting week because of having USC, Oregon, having Penn State, Nebraska. Is this the year that you should buy in Nebraska? No, you should never buy into Nebraska. Shame, fool me once, fool me thrice, fool me 684 times. But that was a week that I saw a lot of things that pushed games up and down the schedule for me. I don't know how to read that week, especially since we know November 29th, that's going to be Ohio State, Michigan in the big noon slot. How do you handle that? Is that a week that everybody just really has to kind of come together and say, we just got to maximize this? So NBC, you've got USC, Oregon, Penn State, Nebraska. You're going to be on CBS, and Ohio State, Rutgers. We're going to throw you on Fox. Why?
Illinois,
because we can.
Illinois at Wisconsin could be something.
And Illinois, Wisconsin could be something.
So,
but I am very cold on Wisconsin. And it has nothing to do with the temperature in Madison and everything, except for maybe Luke's seat starting to warm up. And that's not something I thought I would ever really be saying, but it has been his tenure with the Badgers has been quite sad. It's been very sad up there for him with how things have gone to this point. Phil Longo, that hire was questionable at best. They still don't have an offensive identity. Still are really not, Luke is a defensive guy, and they've not come out there necessarily litting anybody on fire on defense. So I don't know. I mean, by the second to the last week of the regular season, you're asking me to bet on a team that I have no faith on, playing a team against a coach who should always wear a shirt.
I think the safe thing here is, if we assume Nebraska or NBC has the game, they're either going to choose USC at Oregon or Nebraska at Penn State. And I think that leaves Ohio State Rutgers at noon, whether that's Fox or I guess they could move them to a 3:30 on Big Ten Network or something like that. Are you penciling them in for the big noon with Rutgers then?
I am. Again, that is my feeling, my decision on there, but I think that's the one that makes sense. I think that ultimately, and we've not plugged in everything, and I'm highlighting everything on my sheet. At this point, I've had Ohio State on Fox Big Noon 1, 2, 3. This would be the fourth time, and we still have 4 Ohio State game weeks that we have not discussed. I didn't go out and make any predictions for the open weeks, for the 2 open weeks on the schedule, so it's not relevant to this discussion that we're having. So 4 in the can already on Big Noon, 4 to go. Spoiler alert, I'm not all 4 of the ones remaining are going to end up on Big Noon. I certainly did read on the Huddle board presented by Jeff Ruby Steakhouse Columbus. Somebody predicting Ohio State would be on Big Noon 8 times. No. I mean, yes, it is great responsibility having to sit there and carry the banner of the conference in that main slot, but ain't nobody getting 8 games there. Not based on modern scheduling.
Yeah, I'm just looking real quick to see how many times it was last year. I know it was like 5 of the last 6, but there was only maybe 2 in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all season last year. Felt like more, but that's what a Fox game does to you. It's just the early season. There was really no reason for Fox to be involved, even though they still were with that Marshall game But then, 6 Fox games last year, half of the regular season, and that felt like too many. So let's go to the next Ohio State game and try to figure out what Minnesota, because we're saying Ohio State at Washington is a 3:30 kickoff on CBS. So Minnesota, for me, when you look at the other games to choose from, so that same week you have Wisconsin at Michigan, Penn State at UCLA, Michigan State at Nebraska.
What was your first statement there? Because I want to make sure that I didn't miss something in building my. You said something CBS or whatever.
Ohio State at Washington on CBS.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't something that CBS had already filled its 10-4 slot. Okay.
So Wisconsin and Michigan, you'd hope that's early enough in the season for Wisconsin to still be okay and Michigan to still be okay. And we know it's not going to be Penn State at UCLA. Doubt it's going to be Michigan State at Nebraska. So this feels kind of like an Ohio State-Michigan battle for Big Noon. What did you go with?
I went with CBS. I went 3:30 on CBS. There was a lot of discussion out there about that's. We do know, or at least I've been told by people that homecoming games have to be at certain time slots and everything else, and I don't think that's necessarily true anymore. So I think that would take the night game equation out of it. I never was considering it being a night game. I think that this is a situation too of where this may be a week that slides down the chart a little bit, and that somebody's able to snap it up. And I think that it's going to be important for for CBS to snap up Ohio State as often as it can. I don't think it's going to have a ton of opportunity to do so. So I went CBS.
You leaving Wisconsin at Michigan for Big Noon maybe there?
I am.
Yeah, okay. And then let's see here. So that moves us to at Illinois, because you're talking about what maybe Ohio State obviously is expected to be a playoff team. You're seeing Illinois being a popular playoff pick. And the other games this week are Indiana at Oregon, Michigan at USC, Kansas at Texas Tech. I don't know that's an 11 a.m. kick. Texas Tech is pretty popular right now. But really, those are the major games. And again, you're not going to see Oregon. Indiana at Oregon is not going to be a noon game. Michigan at USC is not going to be a noon game. So to me, this is like it's either Kansas at Texas Tech maybe, or Ohio State at Illinois for Big Noon.
And I went with Ohio State at Illinois for Big Noon. I put that USC Michigan game as a West Coast game.
Mm-hmm.
I jettisoned that out into space, into the night ether. This just it's a case of they've not had Ohio State on Big Noon since the Texas game. People are going in the ad office are going through DTs right now, wanting some of that. It's like a Dave Chappelle sketch, wanting to have Ohio State desperately on their air. So this is one where it fits. I think that my confidence level on this one's pretty high.
Yeah, you look at the rest of the options, and there aren't many. And I'll take a noon game over there. The sun's out, hopefully, and then we can come home after the game. We don't need to stay that night, so that's a bit of a blessing. Now let's move to the Ohio State at Wisconsin game, October 18th. Now that week, as we said, NBC's night game is off the table because that is USC at Notre Dame. So you've got Ohio State at Wisconsin, Michigan State at Indiana, Washington at Michigan, Nebraska at Michigan, Penn State or Nebraska at Minnesota.
I was going to say, how's Michigan playing two games? So they're probably going to be
advanced scouting. That's how
getting down a few coaches or something like that. So I'm not exactly sure how you have a split squad like in spring training.
That's a real good way to how to penalize a program. Make them play two games in the same week. And then the other game there at the end is Penn State at Iowa. And that's quite a few games to just squeeze into basically two spots. And not wanting to put Ohio State at noon again, this feels like Ohio State at Wisconsin at 3:30 on CBS.
Put them on FS1 at 4.
4, okay.
That's a slot people don't think about a lot, and it's not something that's hard and fast on FS1. I think they could go at 3:30. I think they could go at 2. They are only kind of competing against themselves there, but obviously, if you get out of your lane, if you sit there and you're like, we're going to put this game on at 2, you're not going to be able to put a game on at 3:30.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be able to have a game on at noon. So you're probably pulling one of the slots off the table, and that's okay. You can get away with doing that. You control that air, and you can kind of do whatever you want there. So to the point, if the night game is not available, if the true night game is not available, and I don't feel this game is going to have as much weight come kickoff as it may, at least of when you look at the front of the jerseys and you see, oh, Ohio State, Wisconsin. Ohio State went up to Wisconsin in the teens and lost as the number 1 team in the nation and everything else. You can I just don't think this game fits the bill of anything else. I think this is sometimes you gotta put a chip on 0 or 00 on when you're playing roulette. You gotta hunch. And my hunch is, and honestly, we should probably clip the show and see how smart we are after the season, or not. I really am in a place in my life where I need constant affirmation, and setting myself up for just absolute disappointment is not not good.
So are you saying like a 4 p.m. kick then? Or
I am.
Okay.
I am.
All right.
But I will take credit. If it's 3:30 on FS1, I still get credit.
Partial, like 85%. So then the next game is Penn State. We're in agreement that that's going to be a noon kick. Then that leaves us with Ohio State at Purdue, everybody's favorite. And again, the good news is Navy at Notre Dame is a night game, so that's off the table for CBS. It's not off the table for Big Ten Network at night, which is something. But the other games that week, this might be one of the last weeks chosen. You've got Northwestern at USC, Nebraska at UCLA, Calabrasca, Indiana at Penn State, possibly, Oregon at Iowa, and then Colorado at West Virginia. That might be I'd say that's too late in the season for Colorado and West Virginia to still be interesting, I'd say. So maybe don't factor them into it so much. But when you look at this, Indiana, Penn State, probably the noon game if Fox has the opportunity for that game. And then that leaves Ohio State at Purdue for a 3:30 on. This might be like last year's 3:30 or last year, like a Big Ten Network game last year. But isn't Ohio State going to do better than most of these games in terms of ratings? So would CBS rather have them than Nebraska at UCLA or Northwestern at USC or Oregon at Iowa? Maybe. I guess it depends on what Iowa's doing this year.
I have lots of thoughts on this one. And the first thing is a truth. If we still believe that broadcasting partners have the same contracts that they did prior to the addition of these teams, this has to be a BTN game.
Okay.
Plain and simple. Ohio State has not played a league BTN game. It does have a non-conference BTN game. So if that holds true, it's going to be a BTN game. If we are batting, if we're a single away from the cycle, we've got to sit there and find that little seeing eye single and not try to leg it into a double. So this is going to be a BTN game. Now,
night?
Well, I'm going to make an argument here.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've all agreed that November night games needing double secret probation, I think that's off the table now. Mm-hmm. But I do think that I still think there is an ask process. If you're Ohio State, do you want to go play in West Lafayette at night? Purdue has been, and maybe the numbers are getting diluted a little bit. I mean, you sit there and you roll in there and you win a game 45-10 or whatever, and that helps ease a couple of things, but you're still not that far removed from the Tyler Trent game, where while he did not necessarily have any direct impact on the X's and O's, he had that place rocking. There was a lot of good prayer energy going in there for the home team, which was not great for the away team, which was Ohio State. So I don't think that Ohio State is going to be that excited about a night game. Obviously the following week I have that UCLA game as a home night game. So you're not necessarily gaining or losing any time with it. I just think that this is a game that you try to split off, put it 3:30. The reason you do that is it makes it a little bit more of a bigger deal. You can multiplex a couple of other games at noon. Some of your also ran Big Ten games, and then you can put it in the 3:30 slot. This isn't necessarily going to be a game that is going to finish top 3 nationally in terms of eyeballs, but I think you can make it a special enough game in that 3:30 slot that it makes sense.
It does well for Big Ten Network. And I just looked last year, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, none of them played night games in November, be it on the road or at home. So then we go to the UCLA game, which we have decided will be NBC at night. Is that correct?
That's what I have. Again, that and $7 will buy you a Starbucks coffee, but that's what I have on my sheet.
And then we've already agreed Rutgers is big noon or noon-ish.
Yeah, I think it's big noon because again, I think that I think Penn State Nebraska is going to be your CBS game.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, and then of course Michigan at noon. So here you go. Here's the entire slate. Write it down in pen. We have all of the kick times logically thought out for your Ohio State Buckeyes. We know they'll open the season against Texas, 12 p.m. on Fox. Then it is Grambling State, 3:30 p.m. on the Big Ten Network. Then it is Ohio at 7 p.m. on Peacock. And then theoretically at Washington on CBS, a 3:30 kick. Minnesota at home on CBS, 3:30 kick. At Illinois, October 11th, Fox, big noon. That feels like it's almost a lead pipe lock. And then Kevin's throwing him up there as well. At Wisconsin, on FS1, Kevin's throwing it out there. He's shooting a shot. 4 p.m. kick-ish, 3:30, 4 p.m. kick. Then Penn State, noon on Fox. At Purdue, Big Ten Network, 3:30 window. The UCLA game the next week, night on NBC. So that will be UCLA. The West Coast teams really have no say, and they have played night games on the road. Oregon did it last year. Just enjoy your money while you're coming and playing at times that you're used to. Then Rutgers and Michigan, both big noon kickoffs. So there you go. All told, I have here 4 noon games, 4 3:30 or 4 o'clock games. Actually, I don't have the first 3 weeks listed. So 5 noon games.
5 noon games. Yeah, I'm
5 3:30, and then 2 night games at this point. I don't know.
You're on
a
CBS,
decent makeup.
You're on CBS twice. You're on NBC once. You're on an NBC property once with Peacock against Ohio University. But just as we would expect, if you are the defending national champions, whoever holds the best piece of the pie for your media rights deal, being Fox, has the lion's share of the games. Now, that doesn't mean these are going to be coming out in the next week or two. We're going to see a lot of games get announced 2 weeks out. There'll probably be a week or two in there where we see the 6-day exemption in the deal. But you should probably book your travel based on everything that we're saying.
Now, and people say, and me including, saying, boy, only one game on NBC. They only played once on NBC last year and also once on Peacock. So this is exactly what they did last year. And then in terms of CBS games, last year they had 2 CBS games last year because so many were on Fox. And, of course, they had the Big Ten Network, the BTN game against Western Michigan, and the BTN conference game against Northwestern. So not been on FS1 in a minute. So, Kevin, if you nail that one, then all due respect, we'll never say another disparaging thing about you.
Yeah, right.
Only positive affirmations. So there you go. There you go. There's your schedule. And I'm sure we've got some questions that I've been
Yeah, I know. I
completely
kind of
skipping.
got into the world of trying to keep up and do my secretarial duty
Yes.
here as well and everything else. Let's see. Matt says, is the NCAA going to do their job or cower down and leave the locked in rules and regulations to the new Big Ten CEO, new sheriff coming?
Well, and it's not just going to be a Big Ten CEO. It would be a CEO over all of college sports, the CEO of the College Sports Commission, and that's the next step. But that may be a little bit after the NCAA hands things down, or at least hands the files off to the CSC. The Michigan's. I assume they're talking about Michigan. Could be talking about anybody. So I'm assuming this is going to be talking about Michigan. But the Committee on Infractions meeting is June 6th and 7th, as that's been reported. That's where basically Michigan goes and sits in the room and answers questions, pleads their case, and then the committee takes like 6 to 12 weeks to decide, and then they'll hand down their decision, and then Michigan has a little bit of time, maybe 15 days, to decide if they want to appeal, and then they'll go from there. But the committee on the College Sports Commission, the way they're setting that up, and that all comes after the House settlement, and the House settlement is still in flux because we're waiting for the judge to sign off on that, as the NCAA plays with fire and doesn't want to just do things exactly as the judge has asked for. But
well, and at what point is it a case of you're grandfathered into the old system? I mean, if you are, this isn't a case like and again, I took one law course in college, and I had to take it twice because I just kind of stopped going the first time, and that would be journalism law. So has no bearing on any of the rest of this, but it's not like you've been assigned a new judge and you have to kind of like redo everything, but you're also not going to get like all the way and have done like 26.0 miles and still have 2.2 miles left and be like, well, now we need to take a sharp left turn and redo a lot of things because of a new structure. I think that there is a point of things being kind of grandfathered in. Now, of course, the petulant children that some Michigan people want Michigan to be will sit there and try and say that this is a breach of procedures and protocol and anything else to delay, Rico, delay, and delay. So, I don't think that we're going to see something of where this new proposed power structure is able to, overtake everything else and come in. And I certainly don't see any way that Michigan, in its whole defense of we're just going to try and kick the can down the road so far that you're never going to be able to find it again. I don't think that's working either.
No, well, Terry Schlosser, I might have missed it, but will Penn State at least be a night game? We are projecting it as a big noon kickoff. It has not been announced yet. We're not that far down the road with announcements, but I would expect that to be a noon kickoff.
I would be shocked.
Yeah.
I certainly over on the Huddle board presented by Jeffrey Steakhouse over at BuckeyeHuddle.com said, there's not a doubt in my mind that Ohio State, Texas was going to be at noon. There's not a doubt in my mind that Ohio State, Penn State is not going to be a night game. I'm not going to lock in on a time. It's going to be noon. But I'm not going to push all my chips in on that yet. But I'm thinking about it. Yeah. But based on, there's no way that Fox is going to be a real mensch and say, well, we'll just punt on that week because we have baseball and we have enough money. So we really don't need to sit there and worry about that. No, we want all the money. So we're going to have that game at noon. We'll have something in the middle at 3:30, and then we'll have baseball at 7 or 8 or whatever. That's where that one is going to go.
Yeah, for sure. And just in case people, I don't know if we explained this at the outset. Most people, I don't know if they even know. The networks aren't drafting games. They're drafting that week. And then they can pick whichever game they want, basically. So you look at the biggest games that week. It's like, well, what are the biggest games? And that's the week that you select. And I think we both agree that the Penn State Ohio State game is the third most desirable game on the Big Ten slate. after Ohio State, Michigan, and Texas, Ohio State. So that's why it's never been confirmed, I don't think, but everybody just believes that Fox has the first 3 picks and of weeks. And so you just find the 3 best games, and rarely are 2 of those in the same week. So you find the 3 best games, and that kind of just tells you what Fox is going to have.
I just put this in a scroll. Again, these are our best guesses. Anything that is in parentheses is something that is announced at this point. Anything that is not, I'm sorry that I still can't make this look any cleaner. We had all sorts of grand ideas of how we were going to try and handle this to build graphics, and it just never really made sense. And
yeah, it's a live breathing thing.
It is.
And again, these are just guesses and projections, not educated guesses, or at least we took the time to suss. They're sussed guesses. They're not just random throwing things on the wall. Matt Reynolds, our hardest game this year is Texas straight out of the gate and Penn State. The Texas game is going to be fascinating, and we're going to talk about that forever. And the Penn State game is perhaps the most important game, if not Michigan, probably. Here's the thing, Tom and I were talking about this, Kevin. I'll be interested in your thought. Where is Texas in terms of the most important game for Ohio State this year? Because I think Tom had it like 3 or 4, maybe, and I had it out of my top 5.
For which one? I'm sorry. I was just reading that. I don't know if we had it when we went on the air, that the Penn State Oregon game has been designated the whiteout game for Penn State. Now that with Penn State coming to Columbus, that doesn't impact Ohio State at all. Sure, come to Columbus wearing white. Nobody cares. I'm getting distracted as I'm trying to monitor the feeds too.
Where do you rank the Texas game for Ohio State in terms of importance? Like, is it more important than
for this season?
Yes.
For program trajectory?
No, just this season. In terms of important games, like whether it's devastating if they lose, they win. Like, where does it rank in that compared to the others? Like, Michigan.
It's not as important as Penn State, and it's not as important as Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that. I mean, I think that Illinois, the Fighting Shirtless Birds, could put together, a decent season or whatever. I don't know if I necessarily see anybody else on the schedule, any games on the schedule that are bad. But the reality is that if you're going to drop a game, drop it week 1, not at week 11. If you're going to drop a game, drop an out-of-conference game versus dropping a conference game. Okay, you may find yourself in the AP and coaches, non-matter polls, taking a nosedive if you drop that game early in the season. But you're so far removed from even the first release of the college football playoff rankings that everything has already been baked in by that point. Generally, the first week of November is when the first college football playoff rankings come out. Who does Ohio State play the first weekend in November? Penn State. So you can certainly make a huge impression on the committee with that win, and nobody's really going to be thinking about Texas. Yes, Texas is going to have all the eyeballs. Yes, you faced Texas in the national semifinals last year. Yes, of all 4 games in the college football playoff, that was the game where you looked the most mortal. Yes, I mean, probably nobody in college football has more hype than Arch Manning right now. It's going to be a tremendous game, and I think that if you do drop the game, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be hurt, and there are going to be a lot of Ohio State haters that are going to come in and say, well, obviously 2024 was a fluke. Look at you. 2,000 and however many days since you beat Michigan or whatever that crap is. But no, third seems about right. I mean, I can't justify moving it any lower. I mean, I guess, if you really, really sanitize it and just, you should probably have it below every game that's a Big Ten game because of just what is so important for the end goal. But Ohio State won the national championship as the non-Big Ten champions. So, the conference title means a lot. But if you sit there and I think you can get a lot. I think with a team that's young at quarterback and young at a lot of other spots, now we're really getting into hypotheticals. Does that light a fire under a Julian Say, and does that light a fire under what looks like is going to be young lines, offensive and defensive, especially once you kind of get past the returning starters? Can you build more off of that? But now, again, we're getting really into sports psychology.
I think we found last year sometimes a loss is the best thing that can happen for you, Kevin. But I'm not gonna
when we're playing.
Suggest that. No.
Drink more and get mad.
No.
Chap says, "I'm joining you guys." It's exciting, Chap. Where are you joining us? Are you hitting subscribe here? That's great. Are you going to sit there and become a YouTube channel subscriber? 99 cents a month. That's great as well. Are you going to join us at BuckeyeHuddle.com? That's even better. Why not do all three? Why not? Hell, throw a super chat in it while you're at it or whatever. I'm sure I got a jar of pickles around here somewhere. That'd be a big super chat.
No, Kevin, we're not trying to stay on this for another hour. While
I didn't say I was going to eat all of them. I'm just going to eat like one of them.
Fair. $1 a pickle. There you go. I'm just scrolling through here. Terry Slusher, Bell Cow defending national champs, not getting one of their two biggest games at night makes no sense to me. And again, like the day of the big night games is over for Ohio State, basically, because you need other big games to be on, and there just aren't enough. And the Ohio State's night games last year: Western Michigan, at Michigan State, and at Oregon in the regular season. Like the night games for Ohio State now are, that's like Marshall or Toledo. Like that's the example. And you go back to in 2023, the night games were at Notre Dame, at Wisconsin, and Michigan State at home. Like your Michigan State is Ohio State's whiteout game, basically, I think is what I'm trying to say here. 2022, they had Notre Dame at home, and there are a lot of night games. You had, well, not a lot, but yeah, Toledo was a night game. Wisconsin, they had 4 night games or 3 night games in the first 4 weeks of the season, and then no more night games after that in 2022. So the last big night game they had was Notre Dame. No offense to Michigan State, and that was 2022. So those days are gone. Kevin, we used to, back in the day, when you start previewing a season or whatever, you start thinking about it. You're like, oh, which of these are going to be night games? And you pick the biggest games. Well, that's going to be a night game. That's going to be a night game. Now it's got to be like, what is the 5th most desirable game that week for Ohio State? What is a game that just, you know what? It's not that desirable, but it's Ohio State, so go ahead and throw it on at night. Like that's the kind of thought process that you have to have now. Or it's when Ohio State is out on the West Coast. That's really the only kind of, a big night game in Ohio Stadium. You're gonna have to save that for the first round of the playoffs.
You are, and you don't really want to be in the first round of the playoffs. And
well, I mean, everybody's going to be there next year.
Right.
Probably.
And possibly. And per, the way we talked it through, and maybe I kind of strong-armed my way into this, I said that the UCLA game, November 15th, would be a night game. That's – you want to have night games for certain reasons, but I'm going to hijack this segment of why do fans so desperately want night games? Players have come out and said that they had their druthers. They would rather play at noon. They don't want to sit around all day. They want to just get on with it. Go out, play the game, and, win or lose, win or win, be done with it. So one of the big – and this isn't a shot at Terry, who's always been a great friend of the channel. This isn't a shot at anybody who said something similar, whether it be here, whether it be on the Huddle board or anything else. Why do you want – a night game? And we're going to work backwards here. And again, Tony and I kind of wanted to be done with this show here at the top of the hour, but he could drop off and I'll finish the thought. Is it a case of, we want the best atmosphere possible? Are you going to address the symptom, or are you going to address the illness? The illness is that the stadium isn't as loud as it should be for a lot of the games. Well, the reality is, in a lot of instances, the contest isn't as exciting as it should be. You're not going to have, and I got to close out my text messages. People do not have any idea of when I'm on the air, and I'm not. They're just going to be games that you're not going to be able to get people to be that excited about. And that's just plain and simple. But people are going to circle back to the Tennessee game. Oh, my God, the Tennessee game was great. Here is a big bleeping dose of reality about that Tennessee game. That was not part of a season ticket package. If Mr. and Mrs. Smith, who donate, $125,000 a year to the university in order to have the right to buy AA block tickets in the, in section 19 AA or whatever, they were not given those tickets as part of the deal. You had to go and get tickets again. So if Mr. and Mrs. Smith enjoy going to the games, but Mrs. Smith enjoys bringing needlepoint and does needlepoint while the game is going on and yells at people for standing up in front of her and being just way too disruptive, that is an issue with Ohio State's game day experience. That there is a whole floor over at the Fawcett Center in charge of the game day experience and things like that, and I don't know what they do. I understand that if I had my way, there would not be an ounce of piped-in music at Ohio Stadium. The band would play every single moment that there was not actual football action going on. The only time you might have it is the couple of minutes where the band is getting out of their seats to get ready to perform for halftime. That's it. So, the Tennessee game creates this huge advantage. Well, maybe then we should just stop having season tickets and just have it to where fans just kind of have a free-for-all, and the most rowdy fans, you have to sit there and it's like a Price is Right, pre-show interview. We're only going to call on people that reach a certain level of, of craziness, good crazy, not crazy, to be able to do these things. So Ohio State needs to really address how it handles seating, squeezing every nickel and dime it can out of people to maximize profit, because it takes money to make these things happen. So, we can't just sit there and say Shangri-La. We're just, it's all well and good. It's all nickels and dimes. It's all ball bearings. It's all going to come up in the wash. So, and I said this earlier, the biggest thing that angers me is when people claim, well, it's a recruiting disadvantage. Well, if everybody cared, if all the people who say that cared about recruiting coverage as much as they say they do, I would be taking a jet from my bedroom to my living room to be able to do this show, because Buckeye Huddle would probably be 100x what it is right now, and I would be the Taylor Swift of sports voices, except I have talent and would I'm full of vinegar today. I'm full of talent too, and I would sit there and utilize it. So I think it's such a disingenuous argument. I think it is so disingenuous. I would respect the people if they would come out and say, I just want to get effed up. I just want to be able to drink more. Thank you. Thank you for this dose of truth. I feel you. I love to get effed up, but I'm working. So just 3 for me, please.
But keep them coming. That's when you talk about the environment. It's like everything is even going out. Like things are just, there's more energy at night, and that's the norm. However, you create your own energy as well. Like this is something where this is going to be a big game, and people want to talk about the Tennessee game. Maybe the Texas needs 30,000 fans there to get the Ohio State fans going and be as loud as they were in the Tennessee game. I understand not wanting noon games because it's an early morning, it's an early tailgate. I get all of that, but that's a first world problem. And even in college, and this is me, I'm a pilgrim. I'm, a very innocent person. Like I didn't need to drink at a game to enjoy the game. Like, in fact, I waited until after the game. I know that makes me different. That makes me crazy, but I always thought, I'm here for the game. And I love that. And then afterwards, we go do our things, but I'm opposed to needing to drink to watch football. It's like, well, again, this is the Puritan me. Like, are you a fan of drinking or are you a fan of football? And now I will get off my soapbox, but I would also, I'd love to see this game at night. I like night games. Notre Dame game was awesome. Like the Oregon game, even though it was a late afternoon kick there, that was great. I'd love for this to be a night game. It's too bad it's a noon game, but also the fans can be as loud as they want to be. And that's something I will always continue to say. But also Ohio State's game day environment is terrible. And that's another thing. And noon, the Fox kickoffs do not help. In fact, I think they hurt that. And like every break is, you're honoring somebody, or you're like, we address your attention over here to this donor, giving them a check or whatever. And it just, they do so much to kill the environment, whether that's the stuff they're trying to do to improve the environment. I don't think helps. I don't think you need a DJ. I don't think you need this. I don't think you need that. I think you just need college football.
If you want to sit there and listen to crappy house music, go to a crappy house music club. It's not. I'm 5-star defensive end, John Doe, and I really was considering going to Auburn until they had a kick-ass DJ, and the DJ does a fine job. I'm not. People who are hired in a lot of these roles are doing what it is they were asked to do. So it's not that it's your fault. You're not doing your stuff right. No, it's the fault of the people who think, what would be really good? What would really get people excited? Magic. Let's bring out a music and mime. Yeah. A magical mime. Let's do that. I mean, play the band. Let's have a knocker ball tournament through every timeout or whatever. Watch it, don't watch it, but we're not going to shove it down your throat. You have is that a younger Mr. Business?
Yes, by the way? This is Bandit.
I saw a flash of fur earlier, but I was going to wait till we were off camera there. But again, it's as Tony said, nobody's keeping you from cheering. Nobody is keeping you from making noise and everything else. There are just going to be some inherent issues. Ohio Stadium is not going to hold noise in the way that some other stadiums do. But Kevin, night games are louder than day games. Yes, they are. So sometimes you can overcome acoustics by throwing in more volume, by throwing in whatever. But the networks aren't out to screw Ohio State. Being pissed off about game times is a first world problem. And you're still watching. You're still going. And you can tell me, you could mean it in your heart of hearts today. That's it. I'm not watching any big noon game. And I say BS to that.
Well, now that we've told everybody to get the hell off of our lawns, I think we can go ahead and wrap it up. You know what? Knocker ball to me seems very, very dangerous. I love watching it, but there's a lot of momentum that gets built up. So I'm going to bow out of that. I just see knees, just legs dangling and ligaments being torn asunder. But
just don't let your feet dig in. I mean, when you sit there, you just have to kind of just, have like a moment of where you escape your body and you're just like, relax. And if you get sent into the third row of South stands, so be it.
Just pass me back down to the field, please. So there you go. Ohio State and Texas kicking off at noon on Fox, as are Ohio State and Michigan, just as you knew they would. And we've had to scroll there, going through there, and I think we've done a fair to middling job on predicting and projecting why.
It's been a 3:30 kickoff effort
on FS1 or CBS.
Maybe FS2. I don't know.
So there you go. That'll do it. If you could hit the thumbs up before you go, we'd appreciate that. And of course, as Kevin said, find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com, become a member, sign up. That is the absolute best way to support what we do, and we'd love to see you there. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.